Producers, listen up. One of the best ways to learn music production is to be coached by other producers who've actually been doing this for a long time. Well, today I'm going to be reacting to a popular YouTube here in the production space called the Cosmic Academy. He has this video called How I Would Learn Music Production If I Had to Start All Over. I'm going to go ahead and do a reaction to it. If you don't know who I am, my name is Desmond A. Produce music on multiple television networks, worked with a ton of independent artists out here in the Atlanta area, and I know a little bit about a little bit. Been doing music production essentially my entire life, so I'm going to go ahead and give you added value on top of the video that's already here. So let's go ahead and get into it if you want to learn. Without further ado, let's get into it.
So to be honest with you, when I first started producing, I fell into the trap. It was like 2010, and I really believed that it was just like, open up a bunch of synths, put as many plugins on as you can, and that's how I'm gonna sound like Skrillex. But like most people, I was going into this without the right mindset. And it's similar to trying to build a house without a blueprint. So let me give you 4 mindset shifts that will accelerate your learning. All right, so tell me if you've ever experienced this. You watch a tutorial and it makes complete sense. Fully understand it. But then you go into the DAW and you try it in your own song. What the hell? It's not working. Why does mine sound like shit? This is completely normal. And the reason why is your brain sitting there watching the tutorial, you'll understand it in 2 seconds. But it's more than that when we're making music. You need your ears to also learn that exact same concept, tool, or technique. And the only way they're gonna learn it, truthfully, is by practice, time, and repetition. So the first mindset shift here is going to be patience. The quicker you can understand there are no shortcuts with music production, I think the easier it is to enjoy the bumpy ride and just be patient. All of this does get better.
That's a good point, and it's actually interesting. So he spoke about patience, and then earlier at the very beginning, he mentioned that learning music production is similar to building a house. And it just hit me while I was listening to the video that when I started music production, we didn't really have YouTube or YouTube tutorials or anything like that. I essentially had to try to learn techniques from different message boards, ask different people, and just experiment. And it just dawned on me literally just now that we have a new generation of producers who does have access to tutorials, does have access to entire courses. When I first started way back in the day, over 10 years ago, we didn't have all that. You essentially had to learn by trying. You had to learn by doing. And in the process, I was able to find happy accidents, make mistakes, and actually like them. But in this era, there's so much like hand-holding and tutorials that could walk you through entire processes. I can see how a producer can get addicted to tutorials and not really ever get to the point that they want to execute. Because with my personality, to be honest, I'm an overthinker, and I'm sure a lot of you producers also fit within that category of being an overthinker. So I can put myself in the position of a producer who just hoards all kinds of tutorials, then jumps into their DAW, tries to make it work, and it doesn't actually fit, and it doesn't actually come off the same way that it does from the content creator who created the tutorial. So I'm glad that he did mention patience, because if you don't have patience, you can get frustrated and essentially want to just give up on music production. Maybe feel like it's too much, or people have been doing it for too long and they have some type of unfair advantage. Let me tell you this, there are producers who are musically inclined, and that helps them in production. You have people who aren't musically inclined, and that helps them in production. They just go the raw energy DJ route, that they just go for groove and feel, and they don't really understand music theory at all, and they're just breaking all the rules in the process. So don't ever get yourself in a position where you feel like you can't learn music production. It's essentially like learning a new language. You have to start small, go through repetitions, and then eventually you're going to start to see yourself grow incrementally over time. So be patient with yourself, give yourself grace, and I promise you, over time, you're going to hit new levels and new points of growth, and then you're going to look back and listen to your old beats from a few months ago, or maybe even a year ago, and say, wow, was that me? Those were my beats? Why did I make my bass like that? Why did I make my kicks like that? Why did I make my snare like that? You know, these little things you're going to pick up on if you consistently work on your production. I promise you, over time, you're gonna grow. And if you need help, make sure you check out my live beat review show called The Heat Check. It's right here on my YouTube channel. You can see it in my playlist. You'll see a link to submit beats for the Heat Check. I'll be glad to give you my free feedback on your beats so far so I can help you in the process and help you kind of navigate and not make too many obvious mistakes and carry that over with you over time.
All right, so the second shift is going to be put emotion first and technicalities and plugins second. I'd really believed that if I got amazing at sound design, that was going to make me a better producer. And I went down this path for like a couple years, but then it hit me. Songs are more than sound design. And if you think about your job creating songs, you're basically a storyteller. You're not just a sound designer or a beat maker. If your music doesn't make people feel something, the technicalities really don't matter.
I'm so glad he said that. Music production is essentially like storytelling. And you know, there's a saying that we have in certain communities, urban communities. It's called game recognized game. And what he's saying here sounds very familiar. So in my Heat Check live beat review show, I do like to give analogies to the producers who submit beats for me to review and give them free feedback on. And one of the analogies is that music production or creating songs is essentially like a movie, which is of course a story. And we have the intro, we have the climax, we have tension, we have surprises, we have twists and turns. So music production is storytelling through music, through song, through instrumentation, through feel. It's not just one thing, technically having the 808 here and technically having the snare here and technically having the pianos here. No, we need to feel what's going on. The sonics need to pull us somewhere. The instrumentation needs to pull us somewhere. The songwriting, if you do want to get into music production where you're actually recording artists side by side with you, then you get into another aspect of music production where you're in that song creation producer type of role. That becomes even more important when you're dealing with vocals and a vocalist. And in the process, that understanding of storytelling is really going to cement itself if you do decide to go that route as well. But just coming from the more so the beat maker perspective, that still holds true. If you're creating a beat, you're telling a story, you're essentially making a canvas for a recording artist to look at, listen to, and decide they want to go ahead and add their own story on top of the story that you already created.
So this is a perfect segue into our next one, which is, although we are producers, think like a listener. You're making these songs that are going to be heard in specific environments. This could be a long drive in the car, it could be a nightclub or festival. But in those moments, do you think the person sitting there consuming your music is listening and appreciating the multi-band compression that you did on the mid-range? No, it's, do they have an emotional connection to this song? Does this transition feel right? Does the melody feel right? Is the rhythm and groove in the drums right? So it's important to just remember, they're not going to be impressed by how you made the song. That's just you.
This is another great point. Think like a listener. You know, this kind of boils down to producers putting your ego aside. I understand we have these fire transitions. We have these new 808 kits. We just added this new clipper into our drum bus and everything just sounds fat and thick and aggressive and we just love it. But that's flexing for other producers. That's not necessarily for the actual listener of the music. They don't really care about all that. They care about how things feel. Nobody's listening to a song that an artist makes on one of your beats and thinks, I really like the fact that they used Fruity Soft Clipper on the kick. Or I really like the fact that they used the Fruity Limiter on the master. That was a great choice. But as producers, we can sometimes put our ego on and not really think of things from an objective perspective or from the perspective of a common listener. And that could really hurt us in the end, because I've been there personally where I'm like, ooh, listen to this. This is super fire. But that's really flexing for our colleagues, other producers, doing certain things in the rhythm that only other producers can recognize. And that doesn't really matter to the common listener. Just think of things from the perspective of a producer. Of course, first, you have no choice but to do that first and foremost, but also put the cap on of the common listener, the person who's going to actually buy the final song, buy the final beat, listen to it from the perspective of the songwriter or the rapper or the singer who's going to use your beat. And that gets down to a lot of producers overfilling your beats. And I tell you guys all the time, please do not overfill your beats, because that final instrument is the vocal. And then also, of course, listening from the perspective of the music buyer, the music consumer. And that's going to come in, of course, for producers who do decide they want to actually record artists, get the vocals mixed, and start producing with people kind of next to you in your home studio or some type of commercial studio. So it's always important to have proper perspective whenever you're dealing with music, because it's going to make you a more effective producer. So that's another great point.
The fourth and final mindset shift is going to be visualize your why. It's going to be hard to stick around with music production if you don't have a solid reason behind why you're doing it. So like I started off making music that I wanted to be able to share and enjoy with other people. Then it turned into I wanted to play festivals and bigger shows. Then it turned into I want to help share this information with y'all and the students at Cosmic. Your reasons will evolve, and they should evolve. But I think it's important to have them and know what you're aiming for.
Yes, visualizing your why is going to be very important for longevity. It's very easy, especially in this TikTok, Instagram, instant gratification, super dopamine rush type of generation that we're in right now, to pick something up temporarily, kind of stick with it for a little bit, but once it starts getting a little tough, just kind of balling it up and throwing it away. I understand there's so many options, so many different interests, and so many different areas that we can go in with all the options we have with the internet, but with music production, remembering your why is important. For me personally, my why is this is how I express myself emotionally, is through music. It started with the violin, then it moved on to the trumpet, then I learned how to make beats, then I learned how to mix, then I learned how to record artists, and all the commonalities of all these different things that I've done creatively throughout my lifespan. My why is emotional expression. This is how I get my feelings out, whether it's through blasting music in the gym, whether it's listening to music just at a certain event, or live music, just feeling the emotions. So my why is emotional expression, and your why might be different. A lot of you guys have background in rapping. Your why might be creative expression, sharing your emotions through poetry. Some of you guys are songwriters, some playing instruments, you play the keys, you play the drums, maybe you even DJ. So just always remembering your why is a nice grounding wire to kind of pull you back in if you ever get discouraged. And it is easy to get discouraged, especially if you're new to music production. So remember that why, so it can pull you back in if you ever start to find yourself drifting away from it. You can kind of remember that why, it'll pull you back in, almost like a map, the navigation button on a map on your cell phone. You hit that button, it pulls you right back to where you are. So you can always remember that. Remember that why, and you can build off of that.
So then moving on to step 2 in our process, let's get into the tools that we are going to need to be using. In the beginning, every beginner hits this wall. Which DAW should I use? Which plugin should I buy? Here's the honest truth. It really doesn't matter. They all work and they're all going to do the job for you. What's most important is though, you pick one and stick with it. Now in today's landscape, I do think there's an advantage to Ableton because majority of tutorials and producers are working in it. But if you're someone who's on a tighter budget or want to go in a different direction, there are so many quality DAWs out there that you could choose from. Once you do pick your DAW of choice, it's important to learn it like an instrument. Don't jump around.
I want to jump in right here at this specific point just so I don't lose it later. So I want to give a little bit of pushback on this pick a DAW and stick with it. Maybe he's going to clarify a bit later in the video, maybe not, but I just want to get my thoughts out for this specific point. With learning a DAW, with picking a DAW, let me just say this, all of them are capable. Reason, Logic, Ableton, FL Studio, all of them are capable to produce beats and songs. So let me just say that. However, you do want to find the one that works best for you, for your mind, for your workflow. And the only way that you're going to discover that is if you actually get in the process of trying different ones out. I'm coming from a bit of an older generation where I started on FL Studio, then I went to Reason, then I went to Logic, then I had an MPC, then I had another MPC, then I had the ASRX Pro, I had the Chord Trinity. I think I mentioned Logic, and then I'm back on FL Studio and Pro Tools for recording and mixing full songs. So in the process of going through all these different DAWs, I've learned that they all have their strong points, and I needed to find the one that just worked best for me, for how I think, for how I function creatively. I wouldn't have ever come to the conclusion of the one that works best for me until I tried different ones out. So just because your favorite producer maybe cooks up beats in FL Studio and you love the way it sounds, maybe your brain just functions a bit better with Ableton, or maybe your brain functions a bit better with Logic. I've done an interview with two-time Grammy-nominated producer Drew's That Dude. He's produced for Wayne, T-Pain, all these popular recording artists, and he mentioned that he likes Reason. Reason works well for him. He's sticking with Reason. That's his thing. That's what works best for him. So you need to find what works best for you. So experiment, and then once you find that one, and you're gonna feel it, you're gonna know it. And just because other people aren't using that DAW doesn't mean you shouldn't use it. Be your own person. If you like that DAW, stick with it. And then, like he mentioned, you want to start learning more and more about the DAW so you can have more options when it comes to music production.
Because really, you need to learn the software first before you could ever make music in the software. And to learn your DAW fast, it's probably never been easier with YouTube and the many courses that are available. Making music's a little bit more difficult, but learning the DAW and the software is pretty easy, where in a couple weeks you can make some great strides. So when it comes to plugins, there's a lot of ways I could address this. There's a really funny quote: "A fool with a tool is still a fool." And it's so true. When you're a beginner, there are no plugins you can buy that you would even understand enough to benefit from what they offer. So as much as we don't want to hear this as new producers, the truth is, learn how to drive, and you could drive any car. Really understand your stock core tools: EQ, compression, synths, spatial effects. Because yes, there are a lot of third-party options out there that can do crazy things that are super helpful. When you're a beginner, you're not going to understand that value because you don't have an understanding of the core concepts first.
That's a great point. And that gets into some of the mistakes that I've made as a producer, which was just sticking to presets. And this is more so geared towards like mixing tools like EQs and things of that nature. Just sticking with presets and not really understanding what I was doing. I would have something like the SSL console EQ, not really know what I'm doing, but just click through different presets that are already built in, and then just kind of go from there. I didn't really know what 800 hertz did. I didn't really know what, I understood 60 hertz was low end, it was subby, but I didn't really understand why would I reach for 60 hertz versus 100 hertz? Why would I reach for 1K as opposed to 3K? I didn't totally comprehend what I was doing in that department, and it kind of led to me just really operating with one hand tied behind my back. So I want you guys to definitely take the time to understand and to comprehend what you're actually doing with EQ, compression, saturation, all the different tools that he mentioned there in that clip, and then just go underneath the hood. Honestly, reading the manual is going to take you very, very far. If you don't understand what's going on in the manual, you could do like a Google search and then figure out what exactly they mean by this, or what exactly does this button mean? What exactly does this switch mean? And then you can start to notice, especially if the tool is emulating older analog gear, that those same tools are going to be in the other plugins that you're going to use, so you're not totally stuck. Like tape emulation plugins, like how exactly do those work? I didn't understand those for quite a while. I just understood that it made it sound dirtier and gave it like a dirtier texture, but it wasn't until I actually read the manual and understood the speeds and the IPS, and now I feel more empowered to actually use these tools, and I have more control over my own sonics. So once again, don't rush through the process. Please don't skip steps to try to be further along. You're going to end up being handicapped in the process. But if you take the time to understand what each step means, each thing means, each button means, you're going to be much more effective and also much more valuable in the market as a music producer. You're going to be able to demand more money for what you're worth, for what you're doing, because people are going to understand and feel that you have a higher level of understanding on what you're doing. So that's definitely another great tip from this video.
Now we get to the fun part. Before you start diving into thousands of different Serum presets or going down the kick rabbit hole on Splice, here are the core pillars I wish I would have started with. First up, songwriting. We are making songs, so if you didn't play an instrument growing up, which many producers today haven't, and that's okay, I do think it's important to supplement some of your time learning things like how to write a song in a certain key and scale, how to build chords within that key and scale. If you don't understand just the basics of music theory, it's going to be very hard to write and create songs.
Now, that's an interesting point that I actually personally never put too much thought into. I always encourage producers to just learn the basics of music theory, just your major chords, your minor chords, and also your keys. Just understand the scales, understand your major and minor keys and scales, and then, you could build from there. As long as you understand those, you'll be good, and then you can build for there. And more particularly on the keyboard, on the piano, that's what I lean towards. But of course, if you prefer the guitar or whatever, you can go ahead and do that, of course. But the point still stands that I would say this is great advice, especially if you want to get in the process of working with recording artists face to face. Now, as a producer, there's always a level of contention and controversy over what is a producer. Is a producer the person who's making the beat? Is the producer the person who's in the studio with the artist? Is the producer the person who's in the studio with the artist, who's actually coaching the person to retake certain things, to do different melodies? And I make that distinction there because sometimes people will look at the engineer as the producer and even add credits. This just happened to me. It's giving me putting my name on something because I'm producing the song itself and not the beat, which I had to clear up, or should I have cleared that up? That's again why it's so contentious. And this advice, as far as songwriting being the cornerstone and learning an instrument, this is really gonna drill home for producers who are working with recording artists. I know firsthand, knowing even a little bit of music theory, being able to understand keys, able to understand scales, understand when somebody's out of key, how to use something like auto-tune. And auto-tune is very prevalent, especially in the, hip-hop, pop, and R&B world. Understanding these different things is just going to make you much stronger. So if you find yourself more so wanting to lean towards the older school traditional role of the producer, person working with the artist, as opposed to the person just cooking up the beat, then I would definitely second this tip here. If you're going to be working with an artist, this is going to help. Even if it's all rap, this is still going to help you quite a bit.
Next up is arrangement, and this is really where most beginners fall flat. It's very easy to create a 15-second idea that's great, but getting that idea to stay fresh over 3-4 minutes, that's difficult. Benefit from other songs that you already like. Think about the songs you listen to more than once in a given day and study them. What are they doing to bring you back over and over again? Where are they using things like tension and release? Where are they giving you a lot of energy and taking it away? You could always drag these songs into the DAW and learn from them and try and structure your song ideas in a similar fashion. This does get easier with time, but in the beginning, I would really lean on other songs you're familiar with.
Yes, and this is another great point. Understanding arrangement really separates the people who are trying to figure out beat making to the people who can make a beat in a way that's very appealing and appeasing to songwriters and rappers and singers. Some people can just make these hard, crazy beats that's just like, woo, just take over the whole recording studio, but there's not really any real flow to it. It's almost like watching a movie with all dialogue. Everything is just one note. Everything is just one energy. There's no ups and downs and peaks and valleys or anything like that. Everything is just the same. And I've been there personally, especially when I first started producing, is how do I get things from an 8-bar loop to a full beat that an artist would actually want to record on? All I have is this crazy 8-bar loop. How do I take it from this point to that point where somebody actually wants to buy this beat or make a song on it? And it took a lot of time. And this is also a great point. Listening to beats and listening to songs that you enjoy, one thing you're going to notice, especially if you're able to find the instrumental version of the beats or the song, is how few instruments are actually being used. When the human voice is on top of the instrumental, it can really, really trick you into thinking that there's much more going on in that beat. And that can cause producers to just overfill and overstuff their beats to the point that artists don't really know where to go. And it's a bad habit, but it's easy to do if you're just listening to things from your perspective as the beat maker or as the producer. You don't know to leave room because you're just cooking up, and now we have this loop and that loop and this preset, and you just got that preset from your friend and this loop from Discord or Reddit. You just want to stuff everything in there, but you're not really going to understand the balance between the voice and the instrumental unless you really listen critically. And I say straight up, try to find the instrumental. And then now we have stem separation in a lot of our DAWs, so you can just go in, take out the vocals and listen to the beat. And I'm telling you, you're going to be blown away at how few instruments are actually being used in that beat, in that song that you actually enjoy. Not only that, another good tip is, once again, producers and our egos, you have to put your ego aside, is to even recreate a beat that you like, whether it's a tight beat that you found on YouTube or it's a beat that you just like from a popular recording artist. Doing that, especially much early on in my career, a lot of times I didn't totally finish the beat. I didn't totally do it, but I would just hear things in a beat and I would see if I could recreate it in my DAW. And personally, that taught me a whole lot about drum swing and how producers are taking things and slipping things off the grid and using different types of quantized options to get things off the grid, and that's giving us those off-kilter vibes and just bounces and things that are hard to do if you're just hitting the drums and doing things right there on your keyboard in your DAW. There's a lack of soul that comes with it. So recreating beats much early on gave me kind of I would say a bit of a leg up, because I knew if I could slip certain things off the grid in my DAW, I could give a whole separate bounce that make things feel much more organic, and that's going to help pull the rapper or the singer into my beat. So that's a great tip, and I just want to go ahead and add a little more onto that particular one.
The third core concept you want to focus on is going to be sound selection. As time goes on, you start to realize this. Great producers don't fix bad sounds. They just start with great ones. They understand what a great sample or synth sound might be. So here's a couple tips I have for you. When selecting synth sounds, try and go in opposite directions. If you always layer sounds that have similar characteristics, which might be my fingers here, they're going to mask each other, cover each other, block each other. But if you choose sounds that have different characteristics, think maybe frequency, stereo space, is it loud, is it quiet, is it wet, is it dry, different tonal characteristics. These differences allow the sounds to come together with less masking, less problems. Now, in choosing drums, Splice does have a ton of great samples, and I'm not someone who's against using drum loops. I actually encourage every beginner to use drum loops because odds are you don't know the amount of drum layers needed for your genre. You probably are unfamiliar with the patterns, rhythms, and grooves as well, so loops can teach you a lot. Don't be afraid to use them early on. They will only help you with programming down the road.
That's a great point he had in regards to layering sounds. I've been doing this so long, I kind of do certain things without even thinking about it at this point. When he mentioned that picking complementary sounds and them not masking each other, I literally, whenever I'm making a beat with a synth on it, I have main synth and subsynth or subsynth, meaning supplementary synth that's going to help enhance that main one. So if I have a main sound that I really like the texture and the feel of it, and I just found another one that I just want to kind of boost and enhance what's going on there, I automatically name it because I know I have that primary synth and then I have the one that's helping it just enhance what's already there. And as far as masking and things of that nature, it's just focusing on listening to that main sound you selected, why you selected it, and then just going through your presets or going through your sounds and seeing what can enhance it, what can make it feel better, what can make it sound better. And you want it to already be there, like you mentioned, already start with quality sounds. You don't want to get a sound where you feel like, I could do this EQ scoop and I could use this EQ to make it fit better, and I could do this and then I could compress it to do that. Start with the sound already great. Find a sound that's already great that's going to enhance that main synth sound that you have. So that way you're going to just do minimal treatment to it. Let's say you have a main sound that's kind of a thick pad and it has a lot of motion on it. And then you decide you want like an airier synth to kind of sit on top of that, as opposed to, once again, doing all these different tweaks and things like that. Maybe that airy synth sound just needs a chorus on it. Maybe you just hit a little chorus right there in your DAW and everything is not like on top of each other as much. It already sounds good in the beginning, but now it sounds even better once you add a chorus on top of it. Or maybe you add a little bit of a flanger on top of it. You're essentially starting with a good piece of steak, and then you're just adding a little bit of salt and pepper to it. You're not looking at the steak and saying, oh, if I throw it back on the grill a little bit longer, if I add a whole bunch of A1 steak sauce. No, you don't need all that. It's already a quality steak. You just want a little extra pepper on it. And that's what the other tools are. So as far as starting with quality sound selection, I definitely agree with that, especially in the context of working with synths. Now, the second point in regards to starting with drum loops, as far as new producers go, it's a bit challenging for me to say that due to the fact that I started in the era where it was challenging to get quality drum sounds at all. You kind of needed to know someone who knew someone. You can make them yourself. You can look on these kind of just the message boards all the way down deep. Maybe somebody on the message board has some good sounds. You can get those and add them to your library. But as far as starting with loops as a new producer, I would say this. I would say if you're going to start with loops as a new producer, have the skill set to actually make the same loop itself. Personally. So let's say you have this cool rhythmic conga loop section that you really like. Also have the skill set that you can make that same conga loop yourself. Let's just say you have different ethnic percussions in a certain folder that you have in your DAW. Listen to that loop that you just got off of Splice, wherever you got it from, and then also make sure you take the time. Hey, I don't want to use all these loops as a crutch. Let me make sure that I can make something like this, very similar to this, if I needed to on the fly, because you don't want to be in a scenario where, let's say you get to the point where you are working with a recording artist in person and they want you to do something like that. And one thing about recording artists in person, they're going to challenge you, which is going to make you stronger as a producer. So if you're real comfortable cooking up in your bedroom, then you start working with a recording artist. They're going to say things, they're going to throw things at you that is going to challenge your comfort zone. And if they say, hey, man, I had this idea right here in this part of the song, do this conga loop that's like do 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 do, and I want it to go do 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 do. And then if you can't quite get that in a loop and splice, they're going to be looking at you like, hey, man, like what? come on, like my cousin can do it, my uncle could do it. I'm paying you for the studio time. Why can't you make this conga loop? Like, I mean, what's going on? I see conga loops right there in your folder. Click on them and let's do it. You don't want to be handicapped because it can make you look like less of a professional producer. And it's a very easy skill set to learn. So just take the time. If you're going to use loops, make sure that you can create those loops yourself as well. And I believe he was more so speaking about drum loops. So make sure you have the skill set to make the drum loops yourself personally.
So in the fourth concept is going to be mixing basics. And I'm going to stress basics, which is not a bad thing. I think being advanced means you're really good at the basics. So volume over everything first. Volume is the most powerful tool you have. If you want something to be in focus, make it louder. If you have less important sounds, make them quieter. After that, you can learn things like EQ, compression, your spatial mixing, putting sounds in different parts of the stereo field, but really think of them as secondary tools. Getting your volume levels appropriate first makes it easier to then decide what to do with an EQ, compressor, or spatial mix.
I would add on to this point of volume being the most important thing, and I'm not nitpicking, I would say I'm adding a bit more nuance, and that's understanding volume relationship. So the relationship between your sounds, not just things being quiet. And again, I might be saying this, I might be reiterating what he's saying, but I just want to say things from my perspective. So I would say more so volume relationship. So, if you have a kick and the kick sounds good, let's say you have it going at -12, and then you add a pad, and now the kick is not quite as loud. The reason that it's not quite as loud is because the volume relationship changed, because you added a pad sound, or let's say a string sound that was denser in a specific frequency range in your music. And I don't want to get too advanced here at this point, but just understand that volume can perceptually change as you add more and more sounds. So, like his point was, make sure things sound good already. Make sure you have a nice volume match. Everything feels good once you have your volume balanced there in your mixer, in your DAW. You want things to feel good. You want things to jam. You want things to feel right before you even have to reach for an EQ or a compressor or anything dealing with spatial or stereo width or anything like that. So definitely agree with that point. But understand, leveling your sounds is also important to remember the relationship between things. Once again, a certain sound can start to sound quieter because you added something else, but just because things got quieter doesn't necessarily mean you need to actually pull up the volume of the kick even more. You understand that the relationship between the kick and the pad or the string changed because it was denser in that frequency range. Now, when you get to the point of the EQ, to just scoop out and just pull out just a little bit more of that low mid range, just to make your kick punch through the way that it felt originally. So just remember that volume is a relationship, and it's going to change as you add more and more sounds. So I wanted to add a little bit to that specific point. So moving forward.
This final concept is one I avoided for the longest time. I don't know why. I hated automation. And automation is something that is so important to your music because this is what creates change over time. This is really what brings emotion into very robotic sounds and performances. So think about using automation on filters, volume, reverbs, delays. It's an easy way to create tension and release, and also keep your listener engaged from start to finish.
So yes, I too avoided automation. Maybe it just felt like it was too complicated, just a little bit. I avoided it for a while, but what I actually did was I would start to use automation on my keyboard. So I had a certain knob. I don't know if you guys remember those M Audio keyboards. I believe it was called like the Axiom. We had those different knobs on there. So I would program my DAW to react with the knobs, and that's how I kicked the fear of using automation by using that, because I thought it was pretty cool. Okay, I can get things to move with this knob. I eventually did that, and that got me using automation. And now, of course, I use automation with just clicking things in, but Yeah, something about that automation thing can kind of be a little scary in the beginning. I don't know why, but I'm glad to hear that I'm not alone.
Moving on to the fourth step, I went through a 2-year stretch early on where I did not finish a song. And if we think about the version of producer I became, it's like if I went to the gym every day and just did bicep curls over and over and over and over again. I would have the biggest biceps in the gym. But y'all know what SpongeBob legs look like? Those two little pencils? That's what my legs would be. But they should be, because I'm only developing one muscle, my biceps. I was this version of a producer. Instead of showing up to the gym and doing a full body workout, which would be finishing music, I always resorted to what I was comfortable with and good at. The one part of my game that was developed, making drops, drop after drop after drop. So I had a bunch of 15-second, 8-bar loops on a hard drive, but I sucked at everything else. I got in the habit and routine of working in 8-bar loops rather than getting in the habit and routine of writing full songs and finishing songs. By finishing a song, you are getting better at all of the little things that go into it. And just like a workout, you're not going to be equally as strong in all these areas, but that's why we show up and do it over and over and over again.
Yes, the dreaded 8-bar loop trap. I've been there. I believe I even mentioned it a bit earlier in this video. Man, it is so easy to get stuck in that 8-bar loop trap, man. You have this crazy 8-bar loop. You're loving it. The bass is right. The snare is right. The hi-hats are right. As soon as you hit the space bar on your keyboard, you're like, woo, I'm the best producer ever. Man, this is crazy. How am I going to finish this? You know, you get stuck in that space, in that place, and it's not fun, man. It can have you questioning yourself. The way that I got over that particular hurdle was actually working with recording artists. And one recording artist in particular, he would come over, we would record, you know, we were doing studio time, and I would just pull up FL Studio. I'd have a beat going, or I'd make a beat. Usually it would be one of my 8-bar loops that I already had there. He would listen and say, okay, go ahead and sequence it out. And then I'm going to jump, and then I'm going to go ahead and record to it. And I'd be like, how am I going to finish this beat? I don't know all I know is 8-bar loops. And he was just like, just finish it. Just go. And I would just keep the 8-bar loops going. Then I learned how to mute sounds. Then I learned how to add low pass filters. Then I learned how to add drops. Then I learned how to use silence. Then I started learning all these things really by being backed into a corner, because the artist was paying for studio time. We were working on music, and he was like, well, go ahead and finish it. So I needed that pressure to push me out of my comfort zone to learn how to arrange beats and how to get the beat from just that 8-bar loop to a full song. It's literally something I had to get pressured into to learn how to do. So now I know how to do it. It wasn't easy in the beginning because I was so comfortable. So for all the producers out there, you know, if you are cooking up beats by yourself, you know, don't be afraid to have a friend or someone you know who raps or sings, you know, come over or whatever you guys are going to do, and then have them go through your different 8-bar loops and go ahead and sequence it out and have things arranged out into a full songs, and put that pressure on you, because that pressure is going to build grit and toughness so you can be able to perform under pressure. So get out of that comfort zone. If you are stuck there, work with someone and have them push you out of that zone if you are stuck. And these days we have so many quality instrumentals. These days we have so many quality acapellas. It should be pretty easy for you guys to just drag and drop an acapella and work around that. However, if you do have access to an actual person, that pressure is going to help you a lot and just make you a much stronger and colder producer, especially under fire.
Step 5 really might be the most important one on this list, and I want to emphasize working with others. Music production can get very lonely. Think about it. You're sitting in a dark room by yourself making music all day. And when you get started, you really have no idea what's in front of you. But I want to stress, finding other like-minded people is really, really important. So here are a couple ways you can find that. So the first way would be to join a program or community. And this could be a shameless plug to join Cosmic, but there are so many out there. You don't have to join ours. I think look around, find one that fits you. But a lot of these communities and programs can offer you real feedback, mentorship, and accountability.
Jumping in right here, I couldn't wait to the very end of this point. I have to come in and just give a round of applause for that point. Collaboration is so powerful, but it can be challenging in the beginning, especially if you're an introvert and you don't like putting yourself out there. But these days we have the internet, so you guys are essentially just hitting each other up on Instagram. So I don't quite know what the hesitation could be, but if it is there, let's go ahead and get past that, because collaboration is hands down the most powerful thing in music production for me. That has been the thing that has just knocked open all doors for me, is collaboration. I can't do everything myself, and other people have skill sets, other people have networks, other people have certain styles as music producers that's going to help me break my comfort zone, especially if I email a beat that I'm working on. They hear it, they take some of the sounds out, they make their own sound and give me the collaboration back on that particular beat. And I learn all types of new skills and all types of cool tips and tricks just by working on beats with other producers, and it puts me in a space that I wouldn't have made those decisions, but I like the fact that they made those decisions and it helped the beat overall. And on top of that, like I mentioned before, is the network that it opens up. If I collaborate with the producer, they have people that they work with, I have people that I work with. We're all connected with each other through music. So if I collaborate with one producer, that doesn't mean I have to stop there. I could collaborate with that one producer, see some type of Instagram post or some type of post somewhere, see another producer, check out their page, listen to their sound, and offer help. The thing is, you want to get into collaboration from a selfless endeavor or from more so a balanced value for value endeavor. You want to be there to help that person improve on whatever they have going on. So you can help them make more beats by collaborating with them more, or sending them more loops, or however you decide you want to do that. And of course, now we have platforms like BeatStars. We can split things 50-50 right down the middle, and everything is transparent. And that just opens all kinds of doors. So if you're at a point where you're confident in your beats, you've gotten constructive feedback from people, and your beats are ready to get to recording artists, don't be afraid to search and seek out other producers, at least roughly on your same level, and then you guys can build and go from there, because that's going to just totally skyrocket things for you. Just be patient. Understand that not everybody works on your specific clock. Everybody has their own things that they have going on. So if somebody reads something and doesn't message you right back, that could be because they were in the middle of a conversation, they were at work, they were talking to their girlfriend, they were in the car, they got a call from their mom. You never know what might have happened. So don't take those type of things personally if you don't hear back right away. Just take some time, understand that it's still a numbers game. You still have to keep reaching out to different people, but in time, things are going to open up. Collaboration is extremely powerful, and I'm glad he made that point.
The second way would be to find a mentor, someone that is years ahead of you that can show you the direct way. Like, this is what we do with our students, where I'm sitting in a one-on-one, you're sharing your screen, and I am literally helping you fix your specific problems, the things you're unaware of. Again, it doesn't have to be me, but find that person. It's a cheat code to improve.
This section is so filled with value, I have to keep jumping in, guys. So yes, mentorship is going to kick you far ahead of your competitors, far ahead of people who have so much ego that they feel like they can figure everything out themselves. Personally, I found a couple mentors in engineering that just opened the door up for me, because there wasn't all this free content back in the day. Now you guys have all kinds of free content to teach you engineering, but I had to book studio time with my own dollar, pull up to these studios and meet different engineers, and they help show me the ropes, taught me about EQ, compression, and a lot of soft skills, dealing with people, dealing with recording artists, managing files, all these different things I learned through mentorship, and just pulling up with people face to face, different engineers, and they just showed me the ropes on what I needed to do to grow as a producer who's learning these new engineering skills to help me work with recording artists one-on-one. it just helped me develop much quicker, as opposed to maybe just trying to read it in a book or trying to figure it out from message boards. Just finding a mentor, someone who can pull you up from the level that you're at, take you to a much higher level, is going to take you super far. So as far as mentorship, if you guys want to, of course, check out my Heat Check Live beat review show. And if you want to do one-on-one coaching with me personally, we can do a Zoom call. It's DesmondASounds.com/coaching. We can do a Zoom call. I can show you the ropes, give you some game, and help you save years on your life. Because it's the thing about the internet, there's a lot of good sounding nonsense, stuff that sounds good and rational, but it's actually nonsensical whenever it's put out in the real world. That sounds kind of vague. It is, I guess it could be kind of vague if you don't understand what I'm saying. Like I said earlier, game recognized game, and I can hear certain things from certain people. They don't quite comprehend what they're saying. They heard something from somewhere else, and they're regurgitating it, and it sounds like it makes sense. So if you want to bypass all that, once again, DesmondASounds.com/coaching. We could do a one-on-one Zoom call, and I'm going to save you years of trial and error. Trust me, there are gray hairs tucked away in here. I still got to pluck them out. So if you don't want gray hairs, then make sure you book a one-on-one call with me, and I'll be glad to help you out.
The third way is going to be to link up with other people and collaborate. This could be singer-songwriters, other producers, but you will learn so much from sitting down with other people and seeing how they do things. There's no one way to do this, and I think exposing yourself to other creatives like yourself breeds a ton of momentum.
Collaborating with people in person is very powerful. Watching how people create beats, watching how people write entire songs, just looking at them and just watching what they resonate with, that's going to help you a ton. At the end of the day, we create music for other human beings, and watching someone else, especially if they're in a different area of production, like songwriting or vocal producing, those type of things, just watching people do that is just going to give you a much stronger skill set. And that's one of the ways that I was able to figure out how much producers are overloading their beats with sounds. It's by watching multiple songwriters in my studio, us just playing beats or me just creating a chord progression, and then recognizing how little they actually needed. We could just have like drums and an electric piano and bass, and they essentially can write an entire song from there. Just blew my mind, totally changed my paradigm. I didn't know that's what was needed, and it kind of gave me insight on why a lot of my beats were actually skipped in the beginning as a producer, because I was going crazy. I thought I was, trying to be Just Blaze mixed with Timbaland and trying to just kill the speakers. Now I got to the point where I understood I was doing way too much and why everyone was skipping my beats. I was doing too much. It sounded good, but I was doing too much for what was needed. So that's another great tip.
The fourth and final way is to become part of the scene. Go to live events, go to shows, connect with local DJs and artists and support them. Reach out on social media, but get out from behind the DAW and start making real connections with people. And if you're not that person, you're introverted, here's the one plus, so are they. We all are, I feel like. So don't be shy on that side. Realize you're probably just going to end up talking to someone who's very similar to you.
Yes, this is another great point. Get out there and touch grass. I understand you guys like going to work, doing whatever you do to get in the zone to create music, and then just doing music all night and just saving it, posting it on YouTube and hoping something happens. Man, you gotta get out there and touch grass, meet the people. I don't care how small, how tiny your music scene is in your local area. If you have one bar and it's an open mic night and it's in your genre, maybe not even in your genre, please get out the house and go network, meet people. Here's a trick that I do. I'm an introverted person by nature. I'm just an introverted person. I'd rather not be in large crowds. But if you check my Instagram or you check my YouTube community posts, you'll see that I'm at different music conferences. I'll post pictures. I'll post pictures with me and people. Recently, I met Jay-Z's engineer, Young Guru, and I posted a picture of that. He's a very popular engineer, had no fear of going straight up to him, shaking his hand, and taking a picture. So, why was I able to do that? Why was I so comfortable doing that as an introverted person? Here's a tip for all you introverts. One, be in the moment. Don't let your thoughts cause you to be anxious. Oh, what if they do this? What if they say this? What if they act like this? What if they just brush me off and don't say anything? Please do not think that way. Be in the moment and just take action. Go up, hey, my name is so-and-so. I do so-and-so. I'm a DJ. I'm a producer. I'm a songwriter. I just wanted to meet you. How's it going? Just get in and get out. Get in, introduce yourself, give them your Instagram. Don't take up too much of the time. Hey, thank you so much for your time. I'm going to hit you up on Instagram and we're going to link up. And then just get out of there. If the person has a bad attitude or they're in a bad mood, you don't have any idea on what they're going through in their personal life. Something tragic could have happened. They might have just gotten an argument. Something could be going on with their kids or their dog, and you just walked up to them and they're not feeling it. They're not in the mood. Don't take things like that personally. They're their own person. They have their own story. They have their own things that they're going through. Get out of your ego because this is not about you. Just know that this is another human being, and the reaction may or may not be is more than likely going to be positive, even if the person is standoffish. Just walk up, take action, and network. And if anything happens in the scenario, in the situation, you feel like a person has an attitude or they just don't want to talk to you, don't take it personally. They're a human being, and who knows what they're going through. Just thank you so much. Walk away and don't internalize that. It's just, we all have our own walks in this life. We're not entitled to someone being receptive to networking, even if we're in a networking environment. But 9 times out of 10, they're going to be cool. And what I've noticed is when you look someone straight in the eye and you just walk straight up to them, they start to light up too. So check your energy. Make sure your energy is confident. Even if you have to fake it, walk up. Hey, my name is so-and-so. Bam, you got it. Even if you have to fake the confidence, take a deep breath, get those nerves gone, and take action. Don't let your mind tell you a bunch of what ifs. All that what if stuff is going to slow you down. Just go straight for it. Oh, hey, go straight for it. Don't think, go straight for it. I'm telling you, it's going to take you super far, especially as an introvert.
Moving on to step 6, this is going to be about making yourself more valuable as an artist. So here are a couple ways you can do this. First up is build a personal artist brand. Now I understand this is way easier said than done. This is something Justin's working one-on-one with the Cosmic students to help them develop this, and it's never ending. But in a way, it's never been easier to reach a worldwide audience because of the social media platforms. Make music, document it, put it out there, connect with other people. You as a viewer on these platforms, you follow other people's journey. There are going to be people that are down to follow yours as well. The second way you can make yourself more valuable is to learn other complementary skills outside of the DAW. Think about content creation or using video editing softwares, finding ways to use AI to be able to create content and put it out there. But the more you can do here, the more opportunities will open up for you.
Always add value. This is another great point. And it's funny, we have so many of the same thoughts on how to help music producers. I actually have notes that have very, very, very similar points to this section. It just goes to show if you're working with someone who knows what they're talking about, who's been doing this for a while, we're essentially kind of bouncing off of each other. One person might say 2 + 2 is 4. The other person might say 3 + 1 is 4. But either way, we're still getting to 4 and we're still right there in lockstep. So that's another great point. You always want to learn new skills. Never get too comfortable, especially as AI is coming and we're getting all these different software platforms that are, getting so good at creating music, getting so good at creating loops. You never want to just kind of die away and wither away at the technological changes that are coming within the music scene. So always stay up to date always search, look up different courses, buy them so you can, make sure you're on top of things so you don't fade away. And then the other point about personal branding, that's going to help you stand out a lot as well. Right here, you see me making my video. You see him making his video. I have my podcast. I have my live stream. I have my videos that I have here on my YouTube. I have all these different, I have my loops. I have all these different things to help brand me as a music producer, as a music production educator in this space, so I don't just kind of fit in with everyone else. I'm not just another nameless, faceless producer on Instagram or BeatStars, or someone who doesn't speak to people online and try to help the community. And that's another great way to just help have a unique space in someone's mind. It's a type of equity. It's a type of investment in the future. If people can look at you and associate you with something positive or something that helps them personally, they're going to learn to trust you. And if they learn to trust you, they're going to eventually feel like they want to help you in the same way that you help them, whether it's a like, whether it's a comment, whether it's a purchase, whether it's a free download or a subscription. All these different things happen. It's a value exchange. So being a brand, putting yourself out there, putting your face out there, all it can do is help you. And I know a lot of you guys are scared, but please just take action. The fear in your head is much greater than what's actually going to happen. So what you're going to say to yourself, and I promise you, you're going to say, I should have done this much sooner. When you start saying things like, I should have done this much sooner, that's when you know you're on the right track, and that's when you know that you're actually growing. So challenge your comfort zone, actually grow, don't wither away in silence. Put yourself out there. We need more helpful, constructive people in this space.
The third and final thing I want to mention is be a professional, even when you're getting started. I think it's really important to carry yourself a certain way. Be reliable, be easy to work with, hit your deadlines, support other people. It is going to be about the music, but there's so many other deciding factors on if someone wants to work with you. And one of the easiest things you can control is your attitude, how you approach this.
This is really speaking to why some extremely talented producers or music artists or engineers or whoever in this creative music space sometimes don't get callbacks. Like he mentioned, are you reliable? Are you professional? Are you someone who can be trusted? All these different things act to help grow you and connect you to other people. If you're very talented, but you're not reliable, then what can people really do with you outside of maybe this one individual specific thing? Or if you're someone who, doesn't hit deadlines for whatever reasons, and I learned at a young age, people do not care why you didn't hit the deadline. They care that you didn't hit the deadline. So whatever you have to do to figure out to get to that deadline, you're going to have to do it. So if you have to wake up early, if you have to sleep late, whatever you have to do to get people to be able to hit that deadline, you need to do, because there's likely a chain of command that's going on, and your specific point in that chain can kind of throw everything off. We're producers in this music space. Some of you guys mix and master and all these different things. So if you're working with a recording artist and they have a specific release date because they have, let's just say, Facebook ads going out or YouTube videos going out, and they need vocals mixed by you, or they need you to maybe take out a sample and do something to a beat, and for some reason you don't hit that deadline on that Friday that they told you, or that Saturday that they told you, I don't care what the reason is, and it could be very brutal. I don't care what the reason is. If you're not able to hit that deadline, especially people who have high expectations, they're not going to mess with you any longer. They're not going to call you back. They're not going to hit you up. They're not going to be understanding. So you have to finish things early. Whatever you have to do to hit the deadline, you have to do. It's better to hit the deadline early. So don't let whatever you need to do, don't let that sit and wait. Do it early, get it out so you can get the deadline, hit that much earlier than they expected, because people need certain steps to get the music released, and if you're holding up the process, then that's also not going to be too that's not going to lead to you having too good of a reputation. And yeah, just even also communication skills. If something's going on and you need certain files or sounds, make sure you reach out. That's a part of professionalism. That's a part of you wanting to help the project move forward. If you need a certain person to respond to you, keep following up. If you need, whatever you need, don't be afraid to speak up in a professional manner. And these are certain soft skills that I've really always had personally as far as professionalism, but it really cemented itself and really honed in as I worked in music, and especially as I worked with like different engineers and I saw how things work in the music game. It essentially was the same thing that I was doing, but I just understood that maybe as far as maybe writing, people didn't maybe write as professionally as me. So I needed to maybe be a little bit patient and ask some prying questions on exactly what people needed from me. So that's really about it for me personally, as far as maybe things that expectations I needed to do. Also, not taking people's emotions personally. In the music game, people are going through stuff. Maybe people, whatever. Just don't take things personally. We're all human beings. And in music, sometimes people can be, all the way up and all the way down and all the way up and all the way down. And that's just their disposition. Of course, you need to have your boundaries, but, don't take these things too personally. It's all a business. It's music. You need to be able to be trustworthy and reliable. And if you could do that, you're going to be able to beat out people who are much more talented and much more skilled than you, because you have these other skills that are harder to find. So that's a quick gem that maybe not too many people are even aware of. Hope you enjoyed that video. If you did, make sure you hit like and subscribe. My name is Desmond A, and I'll be back with more great videos. Peace.
Desmond A.